63 years of independence, 63 years of promises, 63 years of patience. It's time for governance now. Governance now. Let's make it work.
Let me first say at the very outset that I find it a bit mystifying that we, at one level, are engaging in this self-flagellation or self-righteous outrage at a time when we should have ironically been celebrating the fact that this major share of the 2G scam being exposed and Mr. Raja eventually resigning must go to the media. And not just to individual journalists, but across the media. Several journalists for the last 2 years, including, ironically, one of them who's been now accused of conspiring to keep Raja in power, did a yeoman job to work day after day to eventually see that A. Raja left. And ironically, at a time like this, we've been forced to look inwards, rightfully so, and ask ourselves about this deep rot that exists within. There's no doubt that the rot exists. But I have found the trajectory of the conversations and the debate over the last 2 weeks extremely unfortunate. It's been unfortunate at the level of the individuals concerned because, yes, perhaps they should have shown a greater sense of contriteness and explain, instead of ranting, perhaps accepted maybe that there was a professional misjudgment. And I will not call it professional misconduct, but professional misjudgment as of now. They should have perhaps shown that greater sense of contriteness, surely should have shown it. I'm equally disappointed in the way the magazines designed and executed this story. Vinod spoke of the basic rules of journalism. I can give 5 basic rules of journalism that were violated by the magazines concerned. The basic right to reply and to ask the persons involved. The basic concept of skepticism that Vinod speaks about. The basic fact that when you say that you get a call from Amar Singh and you say, you have to see then after that whether on my channel or in my newspaper, I go and sell the Amar Singh line. If any of the journalists caught on tape have swallowed hook, line and sinker the line of Neera Radia or of the Congress party, by all means go for them and expose them. But if you are going to invert the basic jurisprudential principle and say that you're guilty till proven innocent, because your competitive pressures of your magazine, which you always accuse of television channels of doing, forced you to do a story that I describe as shock and awe journalism, where you take selected pieces of conversation and then based on assumptions that as a result of her speaking to so-and-so or him speaking to so-and-so, they must have done this. And proceed then to put it on your front page without even seeing the track record perhaps of an M.K. Venu who has consistently written against A. Raja and then accuse him of being part of a conspiracy where there is not a single word in the transcript where he refers to him being part of any conspiracy to keep as Raja is bad journalism. So there was bad journalism as well. As I said, the individuals concerned should be contrite because they practice professional misjudgment. The line that exists between source and journalist was blurred. Point conceded. And they must pay a price for that. But equally, I believe that there should be an introspection about the kind of journalism that we want to do. Without a basic right to reply, where the individuals are pronounced guilty, before even giving them that right to reply, when assumptions are taken over from fact, where the basic skepticism that an editor must have is not shown. These are points that also need to be looked at. What even surprises me even more in the process, because as I said, I want to see a quid pro quo. If you can show me the only quid pro quo that is seen on those tapes clearly is what Sunil mentioned. And it doesn't concern a journalist. It concerns a politician who gets a speaker changed. And the speaker is changed. I didn't see the face of that individual on the cover of any of the magazines because obviously they didn't do their homework. That's the truth. But we don't want to face that truth. Because as we do in television, we do shock and awe journalism today. We pronounce people guilty before they are innocent. Or we say they are guilty and then look for ways to find out if we can prove or nail them. That's bad journalism. The same rules that are so obvious should have been obvious when we were doing this story. What surprises me, I can understand the self-righteousness of netizens. They don't know how journalism is practiced. What surprises me is some of the self-righteous outrage among my own community, particularly the editors, many of whose track record we all very well know. For them to come on television and on print and make these statements about how concerned they are when we know that the rot has started over the last 20 years is equally surprising. There are two clear things that come out of these tapes. A, that corporate wars, be it over telecom or gas, subvert an entire system. They subvert politicians, they subvert bureaucrats, and possibly, and I use the word possibly because I still want to see the quid pro quo, they subvert journalists. We all know that there are journalists who are subverted. We all know that editors have been carried away by their power and the wealth and the grandeur that comes in and fix or want to be power brokers. To that extent, these tapes perhaps reflect that. And that might have been a better way to approach the story rather than nail individuals and suggest they were part of a conspiracy, which I find prima facie libelous and defamatory. Let me just say that there are two things, as I said, that come out of the tapes. A, corporate India, be it in gas or telecom, waging their wars and subverting the system. That's A, and it comes through right through. You go through the tapes and you find the way in which they wanted spectrum allotted, they wanted ministers to be changed, they wanted to change government policy. That comes through. The second thing that comes through, and this is really what should have been the focus, is the worrying proximity that exists today between journalists, corporates, and the political class. And I think really we should be asking ourselves, rather than self-righteousness, which gets us nowhere, practical solutions. Why has this happened? And the way to do that is ask yourself, why has this proximity emerged? Why is it today that the journalist, the politician, and the corporate are so close to each other? And I'll give you three broad reasons why I believe this has happened. One is conceptual. A, let's get over this thing that journalists didn't do this 30 years ago. We know enough editors who believe that they knew the Prime Minister or were the second most important people in the country in the 1990s, in the 1980s who advised Prime Ministers, in the 1970s who sat in Indira Gandhi's lawns advising the Prime Minister. So get away from that. That's part of this self-righteous hogwash, that the journalists of the past didn't do it and present journalists do it. In fact, I would dare to say that present journalists have less access to the powers that be than the journalists of the past had. The fact is, at a conceptual level, what has happened is the self-image of the journalist has changed. In the past, it was this sense of grandeur that he had, is that I am proximate to power. Now, and particularly in this television era, the fact that I'm on air every day, there's a certain power and grandeur, call it vanity, call it whatever you want, which has crept in. And with that vanity comes access to perhaps the movers and shakers of this country. With that comes the belief, in a sense, that you forget what your original purpose was. Most of us came into journalism because of the great joy of seeing the powerful and the famous being brought down. Now the same powerful and famous have co-opted us to the point where on the front page of the Times of India, you will have Shobha De writing on the building of Ambani as if it's the greatest thing that has happened, is the Taj Mahal, with not a note of skepticism. Where we will write stories in a manner which are designed to suggest that we have been co-opted. And that's because our self-image has changed. Most editors now believe that they are larger than life. Many of them are, as a result, have become, the ones with lower moral quotient have become fixers. The ones with a slightly better moral quotient have become vain, and dare I say, as these tapes show, foolhardy.